Jimmy. Jimmy. Jim, James, son.
Well, far out, man. Check this thing out. Welcome back to another episode of the Jimmy Jim Jim's channel. I'm your host. And today I have brought home this 1972 Volkswagen Super Beetle with a 1600cc engine and a clean title. This thing came to me from an email. All the email said was Volkswagen Beetle, $500. And it came with a reply email and said, respond here. So as we're doing a walk around, basically, I'll explain the story of how this thing came to me. So, what happened is, like I said, I got an email, and this lady said that her father had passed away and left her this 72 Volkswagen Super Beetle. It had been sitting in her yard for about 20 years or so, and when he passed away, he left it to her son. Her son said, "I do not want this car at all. I have no interest in a Volkswagen Beetle." So, she then offered it to her daughter, who promptly said the same thing. "I have no interest in a rotten old Volkswagen Beetle." So somehow through the grapevine, they got my email, which I don't even hand out, so I don't know how they got that, and offered it to me for $500. I responded to the email, and I went to go look at it. She would not answer me on the phone. She would only communicate through email, so I had no idea if this was a scam or not. And I showed up, and sure enough, there it was, sitting in her yard, just like she said, for the last 20 years. Basically, she gave me 20 seconds to respond. She said, "You have 20 seconds to tell me yes, you want this car, or no, you don't want it. If you don't want it, it goes straight to the scrapyard." So within a couple seconds, I had to make the quick decision, and I said yes. I looked it over a little bit, best I possibly could, and I made the decision that yes, I would buy this wretched old creature. I towed it home, as you saw in the intro, the psychedelic intro, and here it sits. I paid $500 for it, which might have been a little too much, to be honest. The vehicle does not seem to suffer from rust. These running boards seem to be rusted out, but the actual belly pan of the car just maintains surface rust. There is no rust through. It's all just dirty surface rust. It's got these wretched old tires on it. I did have to plop the spare on it, as you can see there, just to get it rolling enough to roll onto the rollback tow truck. But yeah, this is what $500 gets you. And this door never likes to open properly. It has been sitting in the Texas sun since the year 2007, the year of our Lord 2007, and this is what happens when you let something sit for nearly 20 years in the sun with the windows up. It just crispifies everything in the near vicinity. The back seats are actually okay. I don't know how they survived. There's a battery down in there. So yeah, the brakes do nothing. The odometer reads 55,308 miles. That's probably closer to 255,000 miles. It's definitely not 55,000, that's for sure. The brakes, and if you can see this, straight to the floor, nothing at all. The clutch actually works. It's hydraulically functioning. And the gas pedal is not seized, surprisingly. But on a side note, how in the world would anyone drive this car? Look how close. I wear a size 11, just for reference. Look how close the gas pedal is to the brake. I mean, it's touching. That's ridiculous. I'm gonna have to bend the brake pedal out of the way because I can't drive it like that. I can't imagine anyone that weighs over 170 pounds could drive this vehicle. But like I said, the clutch is functional. So we do have gears. It's a bit clunkety, but we do have gears. We just have no brakes whatsoever. See how close these are together? I mean, that's dangerous. The Germans must have had tiny feet. It does have an old Pioneer stereo in it. I think it's not going to be doing too much more pioneering. It does have a headliner in it, surprisingly. Not not much of one. Everything's just sort of, listen to the noises it all makes. Look at the dust. Who knows what. Ugh, coming off of there. Oh, look at, oh. Yeah, this is what happens when it sits for 20 years and the sun and the dirt and the dust sort of eke their way in. It's got a dream catcher because we're in the Southwest, of course. I do love dream catchers. No glove box. No keys. No ignition even. I had to forcefully remove the ignition to get the steering wheel to turn because they lost the keys. They had the title but not the keys. It's kind of unusual. Door cards are crispulated. This is just for me being in here for like a minute. I'm now covered in filth. E-brake works. No idea what these little deedly boppers are. I guess I'll figure that out. In case I haven't said it, this is my first ever Volkswagen Beetle. I'm a Volkswagen virgin, so I've never had a Beetle before. I've worked on very few of them. I've watched a lot of those channels on YouTube called Musty One, and another channel, I think it's called 5180MX. I don't know, it's Jason, that's all I know him as. What's this? Some filthy hippie beads. There's gonna be a lot of hippie jokes. Probably a couple Nazi jokes, because, you know, it's a German Volkswagen. So those are the two main sources of comedy from these vehicles. Like I said, the back is mostly still there. I did plop a battery in it just to crank it over. And it does crank. The ignition does not work, obviously. I just wanted to hear that the engine cranked. I did check for oil, so we're all good there. The windshield does have a crack in it. That's going to be fun to find. This is a 72 Super Beetle, so this is the flat windshield. It also has McPherson struts in the front. Some people do not like the McPherson struts. You have to grab this door and pull up on it. Yeah, some people don't like the McPherson struts. I think you can probably see them there. Some people say that it causes sort of like a, it's called the super wobble or something. You can see we're doing pretty good with the rust. Like, there's no rust through. Somebody tried to yank this car at some point, but there's nothing that's like immediately bad. Basically everything that is plastic or rubber has just turned to dust. Surprise, surprise. This is the worst of the rust. As you can see, this entire running board has just rotted straight through. Surprisingly, the underside is not rusted though. It's literally just that running board. Must have been like channeling water away from the car. That works. I did spray all of the hinges with PB Blaster just to lubricate them, so I'm not gonna have a hard time opening anything. So yeah, I'm sure for 500 bucks, you could do a lot worse. This is going to be a walk around only for part one. Oh my God, I hadn't really looked at the wiring. Yeah. So it's gonna need a wiring job, that's for sure. I have not bothered to check what's in the gas tank. I can't imagine it's anything good. I did try adding some brake fluid to the reservoir and pumping the brakes, but no such luck. The master cylinder is probably... That's the tire that was on the car in the back. It was not holding any air. Surprise, surprise. The jack came with it. It even still has license plates. You can see that the last time this car was on the road was 8 of 07, although she said it was parked in late 06 after her father had some health concerns. So yeah, here it is. Let me close this hood. The hood does not seem to line up. You can see on this side, and this is because it's not closed, but there's a gap. And then on this side, my. So something's tweaked. We're gonna have to take it to the frame machine at work and figure that out. But yeah, here it is. You know, this is not my wheelhouse. I am not a Volkswagen guy by any stretch of the imagination. But when this thing came up, and it was either me or the scrapyard, I figured I'd give it a shot. Why not? Looks like it was scheduled to be towed in May 18th of 2021. How fitting, that's my birthday. And the engine does look to be complete. Again, the taillights are baked to nothing. So, like I said, let's take a look under this, under the hood. Yeah, it's all there. I mean, it's got the air cleaner, the oil bath air cleaner, the ignition coil. Somebody has put this quite dangerously right here. Hello, fathead. Somehow they've tweaked the bumper in the middle. Don't know how you did that. This is dangerous. We need to relocate that away from the hot metal moving machinery. It is free. The engine is not seized. Let's see if I can even do this with one hand. Yeah, so as you can see, the motor does spin over. It does have oil. I checked down there. Ugh, I just noticed it does not have a vacuum advanced distributor. That's going to have to be changed to a vacuum advanced distributor. These distributors are for more of like a, how do I say this? They're for more of like a stationary engine, like a wood splitter or like just a generator. These Volkswagen distributors aren't really for like street application. These are called the 009, also known as the 09. I do know a little bit about those, and people swiftly chuck those out. So that's gonna have to be addressed. You can tell it was once this red color. And this vehicle is a little supernatural, and I'll explain what I mean by that. About 8 months ago, I had a dream that I picked up a red Volkswagen Beetle. And I told myself, that's not gonna happen. I don't fix Volkswagen Beetles, and people want thousands of dollars for these rusted out hulks anyway, so I'm not gonna waste my money on that. And then this thing popped up. I emailed, she emailed me back, and literally within like minutes she emailed me back. And this is how it's come to be. Look at that. You can see the original color underneath there. This was basically just happenstance. So I guess we'll try to crank it over just to show you that it does crank. But there's not going to be any fixing in this particular video. This is just a walk around of our new project. I know I'm supposed to start on the Trans Am, but this is going to take up a lot of my time and money, because after a car sits for 20 years, it probably needs a gas tank, fuel, everything, you know what I mean, rubber. I already ordered a set of 4 tires for it, and I already ordered an engine refresh kit. So those are the first things. I also need to go order a brake master cylinder, because obviously the master cylinder is probably dead. But there it is. What do you think, huh? Yes, no, worth $500, not worth $500? Let me know in the comments. Okay, I'm squeezed into the back of a little bug now, and just for shits and giggles, I decided to hook up one of my little yellow tops. Everything seems to be illuminated. We have lights on the dashboard because I switched the key over to accessory power, to ignition power. I did trace the wiring from the firewall starter to here. So this should be your starter solenoid power wire. As soon as I take this wire here and attach it to the positive terminal, we should hear the engine crank over. Yes, I checked the oil. I added some as needed. I'm not just starting it dry, okay? I put a little bit of oil in each cylinder, so I'm not just cranking the shit out of a dry ass engine. So let's see what happens when we touch this wire. So there you go. She cranks. That's a good thing. It means this ignition has a fault in it somewhere, because the ignition switch is not working. We are going to have to get an ignition switch. I already have one on order. But now we know that the vehicle cranks. That's all we're going to do. We're going to unplug this jumper wire so we don't burn anything down. And we're going to unplug this so we don't burn anything down, because gosh only knows what the wiring... I mean, look at this. This is like... who knows what half of this goes to. It's just nightmarish. This car is going to have a rewire. Solid floor. Even where I'm sitting, look at that. Solid floor. But, yeah, I'm going to have to go through the wiring of this thing pretty thoroughly. Alrighty, well, I lied a little bit. We are going to do some fiddling, of course. I just couldn't leave well enough alone. I ordered a bunch of parts that have come in. I ordered this book. Super long title. For air-cooled VW, bugs, buses, Gias, etc., with sections on high-performance history suppliers, electrical impulses, how to keep your Volkswagen alive. A manual of step-by-step procedures for the complete idiot. Not complete, complete idiot. Types 1, 2, 3, 4, and fuel injection, and all that good stuff by John Muir, which is hilarious because this is outside of Santa Fe, which is not that far from here. So we got this. I was told this is the best book on the subject. That a guy that worked for NASA who became a LSD taken pothead ended up becoming a Volkswagen mechanic and riding this in the last days of his life. So that's cool. Bunch of parts. So yeah, we've got the stuff. Bunch of fuses. Today's goal, basically, is to get it to crank from the key. We have a new ignition. We have a new ignition switch. We have a set of keys. We have a set of original Volkswagen keys that I'm going to have cut to match. And we have a bunch of fuses. So that's basically the only thing that I plan on getting done today is this ignition. So let's get to that. Here's our first little hurdle to overcome. Somebody has put a genuine Volkswagen hub adapter on here to fit the Grant GT steering wheel. You can see the little emblem down there. So we got to pull this off with a 3-claw puller because although it's very loose, it does not want to come off. So let's try that out. The 3-jaw puller worked a treat. We were able to get the little like adapter plate off. This is the steering column wiper stock, which goes like that. It appears to be in okay condition. I was wondering what these two little things were for, like these two little laser beam shooters, and now I know what these are for. So okay, that's probably for the windshield washer fluid, I'm guessing. So now I got to get into these little screws and get this ignition bracket off. With that little bracket out, I pushed in this little metal clip that sits about right there. See that little metal hole with the 150 on it? That should allow the entire ignition barrel to simply slide out. And there's our ignition switch, which is held captive by that little screw. And then I need to pull out this ignition switch, like this is the actual switch itself as a whole, so I can change it out with this one. Well, that turned to dust as soon as I took it out. Surprise to nobody, but I feel like I'm being watched. I don't know why I have that feeling. Fathead, what are you doing? Am I the fish in the fishbowl, or are you the fish in the fishbowl? That's the question. Hey, Fathead. All right, we have the new ignition switch in there. I did have to fiddle around with the wiring a bit down here because it was a little loose. I do have the e-brake on because remember the brakes do nothing, but check it out. So we now have crank coming from the key. That is what we wanted. I'm going to take this to a friend and have him cut the original keys for me because these keys look disgusting. Fathead, what do you think? Doesn't give a crap. Not even the slightest crap. All that work for nothing. Anyway, that's what I wanted to accomplish. So now that I've accomplished that, I can move on to a few other things. I did manage to find a 1972 Super Beetle steering wheel, and I have that coming in the mail. That was a pricey little bastard to find. That is not going back on. It's going in the trash. So yeah, if anyone has a 72 Super Beetle and they want a Grant GT steering wheel, pay me the shipping and it is yours. Otherwise, our friendly neighborhood scrap man is going to get it. The next thing I need to work on doing, I suppose, is changing all those fuses out. So let's get to that. All right, let's move on to some fuses. This appears to be incorrect. I did look up the fuse schematic for a 72 Volkswagen Super Beetle, and you can see all these white ones here. These are 8 amps, and the red is a 16. I believe on the 72, these two here should be 16s, and the rest of them should be 8s. So again, the red is 16, the white are 8s. So we're gonna have to change these two to 16s, and the rest to the white 8s. Some of these look fairly new, like this one and this one, but some of these look wretched, like this one. In fact, I'm not sure that's doing anything anymore. So let's get to changing some fuses. Yeah, those turned to dust. So let's clean up this fuse box, and we'll put some new fuses in there. There is all our new fuses, put in the correct manner, supposedly correct. That's what the diagram said. I have found a mystery switch. This is the horn that somebody has wired in. I don't know what this mystery switch is. I'll have to research that. Now that I have the Beetle cranking from the key, the next mystery I'd like to solve is the mystery of what's inside the gas tank. And judging based on that float that I took out, I'm gonna guess a little bit of rust. I don't see any gas inside the tank, so it's possible it was parked without any gas. It's kind of hard to see down in there, but there is rust. But this is like flaky style rust, like it just it flakes right off, you know. Wish I could get you guys down in there to see. So what has to happen is that it's got to be cleaned. The tank itself does not appear to have any holes or anything like that. So I think the tank can be reused, but it's gonna have to get cleaned out. I'm gonna have to, you know, put vinegar in it for a week or so and take it to a pressure washer. But I think we can reuse the tank. I also think the sender might be usable. It's plugged in right now, so I don't want to move it, but it doesn't look too messed up. It looks okay. Everything moves freely. It's not stuck. So yeah, I think we might get away with that. So the next thing I'm going to do is take this gas tank, say that 5 times fast. Take this gas tank out, and that will allow me to at least have an idea of what's going on inside of it. One gas tank, extra crispy. Yeah, well, that came out of there a lot easier than I expected it to. But, man, the rubber on these things, that has perished. Basically, anything rubber like line, like there's a vacuum line here. That's the main fuel line from the tank, which just broke as I picked it up. I don't know if you can see that. It literally just broke in half. Basically, all rubber lines in this car are going to have to be changed. All of them. Not some of them, all of them. Had you have tried to simply put gas in this tank and started this car, you'd have been in for a rude awakening. So, now that we've gotten the gas tank out, I can fill it full of vinegar and go pressure wash it. But I think the gas tank is going to survive. As I showed you earlier, it does look okay. You know, it looks a little scaly, but that can be cleaned off. You know, there's nothing in there that frightens me. So, we are going to be able to reuse this gas tank and hopefully the sender. I hope so. I'll clean that up. I'm going to do some vacuuming. I got the old shop vac out, and we're going to vacuum up some of the filth and maybe do a little bit of interior vacuuming as well. So I vacuumed all down in there and it's looking really good. I'm going to have to get a new gas tank adapter hose. But the next thing we're going to do is start popping off all these hubcaps. And that is because I need to take all 4 tires off. Okay, that's all the tires off of it. Now it's up on jack stands the whole way around. And this thing has very minimal to no rust. This is all just like an undercoating that is peeling off. That's the original paint. Look at the condition under here. This is fantastic. You've got your surface rust, but there's no rust through on anything. It's nuts. I truly can't believe that the actual body of the car. Look at this. Again, undercoating that peels off. So I'm gonna have to, you know, do rust converter on here. But like no rust through. That's nuts. I'm gonna have to clean this up and again do like a POR 15 treatment on it, but I am impressed. We have found our reasons for there being no brake pedal. If I can get around this way to show you. So there's your brake. Hold on here. There's your brake master cylinder right there, and it's leaking. So it has blown out a seal, and that's why the brake master cylinder does not work. That's why there's fluid everywhere. So it is the master cylinder. We will have to get to that. Well, I've done a very basic paint job to the rims. I didn't really care about overspray because we're going to change the tires and it'll look better because I'm going to have to touch these up anyway. But they came out all right. As far as the gas tank is concerned, I'm going to have to replace this gas tank. Excuse the absolute disgusting mess back here. This is my work truck. This gas tank is fucked. You know, I pressure washed the inside of it, heat treated it, sprayed it down with rust converter, and it's still producing rust particles. I can stick my finger in there and, you know, look, comes out rusty. So we're just gonna have to get a replacement gas tank, unfortunately. Well, the sun is beginning to set, so I think that about wraps it up for part 1. I've got to go take those tires off, or I should say the rims off, to go get mounted and balanced on some new tires. And we have determined that the fuel tank is basically rusted out inside and needs to be replaced as a whole. Probably the better option of the two. Honestly, we don't want to gunk up the new fuel system when we do get it up and running. So, as I was saying, that about wraps up part 1. In part 2, we're going to move on to mechanicals. We're going to be doing the distributor, the rotor, the spark plugs, the wires, fuel pump, replumbing all the lines, doing some electrical work, etc., etc. So maybe in part 2 we will have this thing at least fart over and make some kind of noise. We'll also be working on the brake system. So, thank you guys for watching, and always, I will catch you in the next one. Bye!
There's the donut and there's the hole, and you should keep your eye on the donut.